I've seen hundreds of videos on social media outlining the problem that young men are struggling.
The statistics are just staggering. 4 times more likely to be addicted, 12 times more likely to be incarcerated.
Women. Only half of single men are actively seeking relationships or even casual dates, according to Pew.
It's harder for boys to flourish if their fathers aren't engaged. It's harder for men to enter occupations where there aren't men. It's harder for boys to do well at school where there are no male teachers to be seen.
In recent years, there has been a noticeable shift in the decline of men's mental health. Economic shifts and a breakdown of traditional responsibilities have redefined the male identity. Issues such as mental health struggles and a lack of emotional support have come to the forefront, highlighting vulnerabilities often overlooked in discussions of male identity. Young men of today are placed under a lot of pressure to redefine their roles in a rapidly changing world. These trends underscore a complex societal landscape where the traditional male archetype faces increasing scrutiny and redefinition. In this series, we discuss common issues plaguing men today in the hopes to spread awareness. In this video, we'll be discussing 3 methods that every man can do to help with self-improving for their lives. But before we get to that, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, share this video with anyone that you think would enjoy this information, will really need this information. And then, of course, let your own voice be heard in our comments below. Let us know what you like, what you agree with, what you disagree with, and definitely any future topic that you guys would like us to discuss and touch on. But with that being said, Jordan, you're ready to go here?
Let's do it. Let's get to it.
Okay. So what are 3 methods that every man can do to self-improve for their life?
Self-improvement is there's so many aspects to self-improvement for a man, particularly in today's society. But I think there's 3 things that came to mind for me, and 3 things that I think that are prevalent that will help men continue and to go into the next steps in areas of their life. So the first one is developing and nurturing emotional intelligence. So just to define that is the ability to understand, manage, and effectively utilize one's emotions. So that emotion regulation. And I think this is an important one. Going back to our earlier episode, go ahead and check that out. But it's, with the conditioning of us not being able to be, as expressive of our emotions, I think we also get taught the other way of it in terms of being able to suppress those things and not to feel those things. So one of the things that we see a lot is don't be anxious, don't get mad, those type of pop psychology, quasi-psychology kind of things that go on social media. And those aren't humanistic things. Like you're a human, so you're going to experience emotions. So it's more so about how you experience those things. And then it's about how you practice responding to those negative outcomes and those emotions that are less than pleasurable to have, and doing it in the most productive way. Which, again, going back to practicing it takes a lot of time. So continuing to do those things and develop and nurture that emotional intelligence. The second thing would be is to build confidence and self-efficacy on one's ability to get something done, right? Belief and the ability to get something done. So one of the things that I do, and we talk about a lot on this channel, is affirmations and positive self-talk, which I know goes, against the grain for us men, but I think it's a really, really important step for us in terms of being able to rewrite the narratives that, have been written for us in terms of negative stereotypes. So one of the things that I practice personally, and I think a lot of people may subscribe to this as well, is those power statements. So the couple of power statements I have is I am worthy of blank, and then Galatians 6:9 in terms of being able to be resilient and then become undeniable. So some of the things that motivates oneself through positivity. And again, going back to, I understand that's a little bit harder for us men in terms of writing those things down and journaling and self-affirmation. They might seem a little feminine, but again, our channel is knocking down those negative stereotypes and to build those things within ourselves that is really, really important for us, not only as men, but as humans, to help push us into the right direction. And then just celebrating the small wins, I'm saying that, those setting those achievable goals with supportive people around you, but it's okay to celebrate those small wins. I think that helps, build that confidence and that self-efficacy. Is like, if I'm able to do this thing and then I'm able to do this thing, and then I'm building upon this thing to get to the ultimate goal. It gives you that belief and confidence in yourself that I will eventually reach the said goal that I've had in mind by reaching these small stepping stones. So, and then being able to celebrate those things, I think is a really, really important thing to boost confidence and morale, if it is a longer goal. And then the last thing, which is again with the level of preparation and just the steady routine. I know it kind of can seem boring, but again, the confidence comes from that work that's done in and day out, right? So being able to be prepared and understand that preparation is not just when I have a test, it's like the day in and day out things, the little things more so than anything that gives you that level of preparation to when that time comes. I've been seeing myself and I visualize myself in this space and achieving these goals and attaining these goals. And I've done the little things leading up to that to where I'm able to step in here with a level of confidence that maybe I wouldn't have had I not had some type of routine that I've had for myself and or a level of preparation that I know that I have been subscribing to for said amount of period for that particular thing. And then critical thinking skills. So one of the things that we have in our if you have these type of friends is just black and white type of thinking, but just allowing some space for gray area and context. It's rarely one explanation for things. There's literally an intersectionality for some of these conversations to be had. And I know there's a push for extremism. There's a push for a polarizing thing. Either it's this way, or it's, you got to subscribe to this way of thinking or this way. And I know, I understand that it's rooted in political nature of this country. But you don't have to be that way, and allowing that space for gray area to conversations to be had and avoiding extreme, absolutism types of thinking. And I'll give an example of this is particularly when we talk about intersectionality, like there's experiences that I have or we have as men, right? Like this just the nature of our gender and our sex, right? One of the things that we talked about in our last episode, and we'll talk about a little bit in this episode, is the fact of societal expectations of being a provider, right? That is something that is innate to the man in terms of societal expectations. What another thing is that, well, I'm also a black person too. So now I'm a black man. And now the black man not only deals with certain things that a man would subscribe or, a man may deal with, but now you add the element of race into that. And now there's intersectionality, which now is a whole new unique experience for a black person who happens to be a man in itself. So those two things they have, its own separate, unique entities, but there also is some intersectionality. And again, if you have that gray area and you have context in terms of having critical thinking skills, you'll understand why that's important, particularly when you're having some of these conversations that are at a higher level, as you continue to ascend your way up the corporate ladder. And then the other point I would make within critical thinking skills is self-reflexivity, just that understanding that we all possess biases and stereotypes based on our lived experiences, right? And our characteristics, whether that's racial, whether that's cultural, whether that's whatever community we come from, and understanding how they may, kind of manifest into different conversations. So one of the things that me and Hill always think is just going back and having some feedback and understanding that our lived experiences and where we come from and our gender and the region we come from and the city that we come from and the parenthood or family, all those things have a blended into one way of thinking, which is a schema of how we see the world. And so that's our perspective, but then you got to understand there's other different perspectives. So seeking that feedback and different perspectives from different people can open your mind to seeing things differently and not limiting your scope of the world and seeing it only through your lens, which may limit not only opportunities for yourself, but limit self-growth as well.
Yeah, I think those are all really great points. But more importantly, I want to address this in the video. So when it comes to self-improvement, especially what I see nowadays, a lot of people always gear it towards this is the only way to self-improve. This is the only answer. There's only one right answer, right? And then after that, they sell you a course and all that. We have nothing to sell you other than to like, follow, and subscribe, of course. But there's nothing here to sell you. We don't have a course. We don't have anything for you to buy. We don't have a product or anything like that. The most important thing I want to get out of this video is to empower you to start or to continue in doing something in the realm of self-improvement. There's thousands of ways that you can self-improve on your life. And you can even try new things and try other things that may not work out. So then you go and you keep trying, you keep doing other things. But the most important thing we want to state, this is our opinion on what you can do to self-improve, but there are hundreds and thousands of ways to self-improve. So as long as you start on something, that's more important than the context of this video itself and what we're trying to convey. But with that being said, what do you believe are some of the consequences on people who, I wouldn't say refuse to start, but delay actually starting their path on self improvement?
There's a lot of consequences for delaying self improvement measures that need to be taken. Obviously, there's the big ones and then there's small ones. And we'll start kind of in the middle ground. And my first point in that is just, experiencing, you know, increasing amount of stress, which can lead to negative psychological outcomes, possibly. So that compounding stress from not properly dealing with hardships and circumstances. And that goes to saying, like, whether that's me outsourcing for help, whether that's therapy, whether that's reaching out to my friends, or, a lot of things that need to be dealt with within, in terms of looking within, doing the work within, working with people on the things that I need to take care of, that are negatively affecting me, inside of my own mind. And so I think if you have increased amount of stress, increased amount of trauma, increased amount of things that you may be avoiding, avoidance is a huge thing that we see a lot of times, and not having to deal with those things properly. If I just put them over here, I might not have to see that, but we know that to be that if we avoid certain things, it more than likely will manifest in a different way, down the road, and you'll have to deal with it at some point. And so, not dealing with that stress in those times in a proper manner, and not knowing how to go about doing that, is a consequence. And then you can see, like, again, negative psychological outcomes that are possible, whether that's depression, whether that's anxiety, whether that's certain things on an extreme level, maybe suicidal ideations. Again, that's on a much more extreme level, but it is a possibility of, if I'm not able to deal with these things in a proper manner as they come to me, and processing them and in that way. And so then that leads to my second point is disengagement, isolation, and then trouble with personal relationships. So building upon, negative psychological outcomes, one of the things that we see a lot with depression is, pulling back from others, and social isolation, which is obviously that precursor to those things. Not the whole thing, but a precursor to those things. So keeping other, as you can see, one of the symptomatologies of that would be keeping others at a distance, right? And keeping them at arm's reach when that might not be their, their innate type of personality. And so one of the things I want to talk about when it comes to disengagement and isolation is that the fact that, those things again go build into like shame and guilt, right? Not, or even to a lesser degree, or to a degree, avoidance as well. And so understanding that you might want to, fall back into your shell if I'm not self-improving, or if I see other people, or I see some of my peers doing the things that I once aspired to do, or popping a thing on social media, and I don't feel like I have those things to brag about or to be proud about. Some people might socially isolate, and then losing that desire to continue to self-explore and do enjoyable activities with oneself and others, going back to that social isolation, and then that could lead into negative self-image. So how do I view myself at the end of the day? Not only just on a physical scale, but mentally, and if that is maybe compounded by maladaptive core beliefs of abandonment, or some of the things that we may have strung together from some of the experiences that we may have had that were negative, you can lead to a negative image of oneself, which has its own, separate conversation to be had as to how to kind of reverse those things. And then regretting past mishaps, right? So situations, and, I think as we get older, we start to think about things. I know I have for sure about, dang, man, I wish I would have went about it a little bit different. If I had known what I know now, I would have done it this way, or I would have, I could have done this a little bit better, particularly in high school, man. And the thing of it is that anybody's going to have that type of thought as you get older. You know that, with the information you have now, you probably would have did things differently, but you don't want to be in that space where it's like, dang, I should have done that. I could have done that, and understand the importance of the now. Right. So you don't want to have those regrets, because regret is a tough emotion. I think it's, in my opinion, that's the toughest thing to deal with, because it's not like you can go back and change some of these things, right? Whether that's a missed opportunity, whether that's a missed relationship, how you handle things poorly that end up having a negative outcome that, really, really, maybe negatively affected you in certain aspects of your life. And so if you understand the importance of the now, and the consequences that you don't, or you may, experience if you don't look at self-improvement as a important piece to your self at this point in time, these are some of the things that may happen. It's not a for sure thing, but eliminating certain things that could be, we already, life is already hard. So you want to eliminate barriers that that aren't already there, right? And so if I understand all the hurdles that I have to go over as a Black man in America, why would I want to create more barriers for myself, right? So eliminating some of those things, like my dad would say, don't make a problem an issue, right? Some of those things that we can get out of the way by just constantly doing some self-improvement, some reflection, some self-improvement efforts, outsourcing, all these things that we talk about on this channel can eliminate some of those barriers to where we're able to focus our energy and our sense of direction in a more positive manner to have an impact in the world in a productive way.
While we focus on men's mental health, we at Men the Podcast would like to express that this advice can be applied to all people. Whoever you are and wherever you are, we hope that this information can help you overcome the struggles in your life. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe and check out the other videos on our channel. And as always, take care, and we'll see you in the next one.